Hi, I don't know if anybody is out there, but my friends back in LA and New York should be awake. It's 7:30 p.m. in Portugal tonight. And the big surprise for me, because I knew very, very little about Lisbon and Portugal or any of this. It's all a big kind of surprise. But what really shocks me is there is such a culture of magic in Lisbon, and how would I know? I know it's, hi Julia, I know it's, a Catholic country, but here's the stuff that I'm just noticing in our short time in Lisbon. There are used bookstores everywhere around us, and they are full of really cool old books about stuff like the Knights Templar, Hermetic mysticism, the Masons. I even saw one about, Judaism in Portugal, and it's all in Portuguese. Oh, and there's astrology, and there's like everything, tarot cards. But it's all in Portuguese. So it's like the world's most intriguing mystery books. And I can't read any of them because I only know 3 words: yes, no, and thank you. So it's kind of maddening, but it's also really inspiring. And we've been going to a lot of bookstores. And yesterday, a guy working at a really large bookstore that had a beautiful, large English language section was telling us that Portugal's most famous writer, the poet Fernando Pessoa, not just a poet, but he's a genius. He's Portugal's most famous writer, and we got this copy of his most famous book, The Book of Disquiet, because on the cover it has by Philip Pullman, whose latest book in his Dust trilogy I finished yesterday, and I love Philip Pullman. Philip Pullman writes mysteries, misgivings, tears, and dreams and wonderment like nothing else. The wild thing about Fernando Pessoa, besides he's just a freaking incredibly good writer, like good writing is so rare that when I read it and it's really good and it's really easy to read, it just kind of lights up my whole body, because it's such a shock when like language is just like, whoa, that evocative. I'm having the same experience starting an Elizabeth Gilbert novel, her City of Women. I mean, oh my God, that lady just knows how to write. Thank you, Susan. Susan likes my outfit. Yay! So this guy, Fernando Pessoa, never wrote in his own voice. He had at least 72 alter egos. So all of his writing was as other people, and they all had bios, and they all had their own voice and their own point of view. Whoa. And so this book is considered the Bible of his books, because it's a compilation of stories and poems and stuff written under the alter ego that was closest to him, that he kept the longest, but it's still under this other name, as if it's not him. So he wrote as 72 different people, and he's such an incredible writer. And he was this very shy, very lonely person who was not famous until after death. But as I was talking about, this culture of magic at least in the Lisbon area of Portugal, and I expect it's lots of places, what I found out from the bookstore owner and confirmed since then is Fernando Pessoa, the Lisbon writer, who wrote almost everything in English, because as a child he went down to South Africa with his father, and so he just fell in love with the English language. And so he's, Portugal's most famous writer, but he wrote in English and very little in Portuguese. Yay for me, because I read English, not Portuguese. He carried on a very extensive correspondence with Aleister Crowley, who was like the polar opposite. So you have Fernando Pessoa, who, just has a very low profile, job as a clerk, and to the best of our knowledge, never had a relationship with a woman, and kept to himself, and just, instead of having a social life, wrote and wrote and wrote and didn't show it to anybody, except maybe a couple of things. But wasn't famous, very just quiet, observant life. And Aleister Crowley was this very wealthy, very flamboyant, very self-promotional, very dramatic, very promiscuous nobleman from England. So the two are so very different, but they had a meeting of the minds. So they had a really long correspondence, and boy, would I love to see those letters. And I think it started when Fernando wrote to correct Aleister Crowley on a mistake in his horoscope or his astrology or something, and that started a very long relationship. So that Aleister Crowley, this wicked, you know, esoteric, occultic founder of Golden Dawn traditions, came to Portugal. You know, and I'm going to go more into like the magic here, but he came to Portugal and to see Fernando. Also brought his girlfriend at the time. They had a fight. She left. So Fernando helped Aleister Crowley fake his own suicide to show that girl, right? Really crazy, very dramatic stuff. But that's not all. Devin and I, at the suggestion of somebody who saw like one of my videos or posts or something, suggested that we go to a nearby town called Sintra, which, hello, is so beautiful, charming, precious. I'm going to Google real estate in Sintra as soon as I finish this video. It has this place that was recommended to me by one of you called the Quinta da oh crap, how do I say it? The Quinta da Regaleira. Quinta da Regaleira. Yay, there we go. Which around the same time as Aleister Crowley and Fernando Pessoa here, and Gaudi in Spain, and Einstein. It's like this, the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century is like one of the most amazing times in human history for artistic, philosophical, and scientific thought and creativity and innovation, just like Klimt, all the people from that period. So this house was renovated in Sintra in those 1890s to 1910 period, and it's so magical and beautiful. The gardens are full of all these alchemical and mythological and Masonic and Knights Templar art and iconography and symbols, including this really, 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 really deep well for initiations, where it's just a spiral staircase around it with 9 landings and 4 directions at the bottom, and then grottos and mazes to find your way out in the darkness when you get to the bottom is like, oh my God. Devin was in heaven, because Devin does all that initiatory magic stuff. Just so much symbolism hidden away that we couldn't even begin to grasp or see all of or understand all of. But it was, and we're kind of in the know on mythology and symbolism and magic and all that kind of stuff. So really, wow, like, and bookstores with tarot cards, including Aleister Crowley's deck in Portuguese, a deck that hasn't been printed in decades. And all those books that I'm dying to read that I can't read because I can only say yes, no, or thank you in Portuguese. It's wild, but I can figure out, like, as Portuguese resembles Latin languages just enough that I can figure out the titles, you know, and pick up a little bit reading, but I can't. The best used bookstores in the world, and I can't read them. It's crazy. So, wow, what a surprise. I'm gonna do some deep dive online research into what the Jews were doing in Portugal before the Inquisition killed or drove them all underground. And I gotta say, not a big fan of Catholicism this week, because so much beauty and life and philosophy flourished, flowered, thrived until the Inquisition just brought death and hatred and fear and superstition and ignorance. And it's just, wrings my heart out. And it's painful to see, the beautiful architecture and the really cool things that kings and queens created while enslaving people. And it's just really sad. Like, hey, humans, let's build great monuments and great art without enslaving or exploiting people. I think that is a great challenge for this next phase of our evolution. So let's make magic and love and kindness and abundance and art for everybody, without exploitation and without harm. My mom would always say, do what you will and harm none. And I think that's a really big caveat. I think I've mentioned before the rule of 3, send out, if you've got a challenging, hurtful, scary person in your life, send them love. Protect yourself, set really healthy, strong boundaries. Don't let them abuse you. Do whatever you need to do, because it's for their good too, to protect yourself, whether it's legally, physically, what have you. And then send them all the love and all the healing and all the happiness in the world, because happy, loved, healthy people help others and don't harm others. So whoever your boogeyman or woman is, wish them love and healing and happiness away from you, so that they bring more light and happiness and health in the world, and you're free. And everything you send out comes back to you threefold. So if you send out love and healing and health, that's what you get back. So that's my little lecture on magic today. Namaste, y'all. We have another full day in Lisbon, and then we have wedding day on Thursday, hopefully with Marcia Wider. She's in Rome right now. And it's supposed to rain on my wedding. How could that happen? We'll see about that. We'll see how we can, work with it. Okay, so talk to you later.